Afternoon, David.
Afternoon.
How goes it? You recovered for Saturday yet?
Just about legs still sore, but seeing my legs are still sore. My legs are always sore, but there's sometimes it gets really, really bad. And hopefully tomorrow, when this consultant the will maybe offer me a treatment, that I can do. The only treatment I've known that's worked up to now is massage. And there you go. But I'd like something a bit more permanent.
Obviously, David, aye.
It's my own bloody fault for smoking from 15 years of age until 66.
Aye, well, I'm a smoker myself, so. And I started at 10, but I've been a yo-yo smoker. I've stopped, I've started, I've stopped.
Yeah, I did stop for a couple of years. And crazily, I was in Vancouver Island in Victoria, and there was a great big tobacconist there. And in the window they had the Cuban cigars.
Aye.
And I think they were like $60 odd. And I thought, I'm on holiday, I'll get one of them. Sat at the bay at Victoria, smoked this cigar. It was lovely. You could tell it'd been rolled down somebody's chest. I won't say anymore.
Or along the five. But to be fair, I mean, I always loved a cigar with a cup of coffee. What a taste!
Yeah, I know, but the problem is because I'm an addict. It's like I cannot have one.
Aye. No, when I was in the army, I used to smoke. I used to buy the 50 bucks of King Edwards because it was cheap.
I did too. I was in the army. I was playing gigs for the army, right? But we were allowed into NAFI and we were allowed to buy stuff out of the NAFI shop.
I think that's probably the first time I met you, 86 and I wasn't about, but I don't think we actually spoke to each other. You were there with a band and that mob that sold me the leather jacket.
You were that guy with the plastic pint mug that dropped it on the floor and I went, oops.
Well, aye, it would have been because I had spasms in my horn at that time. So aye, as I say, I probably met you years before we realised it, David. You know.
I know. Anyway,
Saturday was a Brody. It was a Brody. And when we get to the end, we'll talk a wee bit more about that. But the numbers are climbing. The numbers are climbing nicely. What I will say is the indie movement really, really did give generously to the Indie 2 Cafe, £1,025, David, to go to charity and to help Independence Live this time. I think they're going to give me donation to Independence.
I've got the most expensive coffee in Glasgow through a donation on Saturday. I paid 20 quid for a black coffee for Professor Mark McNaught. Yes, and it was Madam Director that blooming swiped the 20 off me.
I waited. But Sarah's famous for mugging everybody when it comes to food banks and charities. So Madam Director's got her uses. And it was nice to see Mark in the flesh again. In fact, he had to annually film a Bahookie in Argyle Street. Mark was coming in and they went, "Oh, Davey!" And I tried to put the brakes on, but I was wearing leather brogues with no segs, and you've got young bathing slabs and they were wet. Wow! Aye, it's nice to see Mark, and I had a wee chat with him when I come down, you know.
Yeah.
When I get back round the march. Now, I don't know what happened to the 2 hours and 44 minutes footage of the march I put out because it's disappeared from my timeline, but I'll find it and put it back.
Yeah, well, no, it should have been. Should have been on YouTube. I went looking on YouTube to see if any.
No, my phone doesn't support Restream apparently, so I'm going to get an upgrade to my phone.
But you can go directly onto YouTube.
Aye, I could, but I wasn't going live on YouTube. I was going live on Facebook because that's where the majority of our audience still is.
Yeah. Okay.
When it comes to viewbacks, you know.
Thanks,
at the moment, the live audience is mainly on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to watch back, we're hitting a couple of thousand on Facebook. We're only hitting 700, 800, 900 on YouTube. But even that's great because it also goes out in Scottish Independence 2028. Scottish Independence. I did a wee advert for him actually on Saturday.
Yeah.
Where I was talking about his channel and your channel. So hopefully that'll help. But aye, it was nice to meet an awful lot of the audience.
Stop you, David. Listen, guys, what David's explaining is actually a thing, all right? What we need is we need more subscribers on YouTube.
Sorry,
so the numbers are increased on YouTube. We still seem to be getting the majority of people watching at the time on Facebook. So, thank you.
No, David, that's not true. At the time, the majority of live views are on YouTube.
Right.
But it's watch back.
It's watch back. Right.
Watch back, we get the majority on Facebook.
Right.
But Saturday was amazing. But let's get to business, because there was a lot went on last weekend. But I'm going to start on Saturday, as you know. All right. So subject number one, David. Let's get into it, because obviously we're a topical chat show, and talking about the march is topical enough. But we'll get back there. Little England uses new Public Order Act to arrest peaceful protesters and nighttime security staff. 52 people were arrested. What do you make it, David?
I actually put out a post called Curiouser and Curiouser, right? And the fact that you had a journalist with a camera, with a press card, being arrested for simply filming a lass that was carrying a placard saying "Stop Oil," you know, the Stop Oil campaign, right? And you also the situation where the Republic organisation, they want to have a peaceful protest in London. They went to the council in London. They went to the police. The police said, right, okay, you can have that pitch. You'll stay there. You've got so many feet and all the rest of it, and you'll be protesting between the hours of da 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 and da da da, right? And they ended up, they moved them to another, I think it was Leicester Square. They moved them to, and what they did was they let them set up or start to set up, and then they sent the police in to arrest them all.
Yep. And I listened to the head of the Republican movement on LBC, and he was actually saying that the police stole their placards for the van.
Yeah, when you don't say the police stole, I think that was a bit emotive language. If they shut down the protest, were the police actually stealing? Maybe they were taking it as evidence. You know, the police don't steal. Police don't steal in that sense, David. Surely.
No, but that's how the boy described it, and that was because they had authorization for that protest.
Yeah. Because they had authorization for the protest. However, when was that authorization given? Was it before the 2nd of May? Because that's when royal assent was given to the Public Order Act 2023, rushed in by Rishi Sunak and Cruella de Vil, or whatever her name is, right? Braverman. Obviously it was done before that, the 2nd, which was only 4 days previous. And then the moment that was brought in, the order was given, right, okay, let's go get them off the streets.
See, I mean, people talking about the placards being confiscated and things like that, but I'm just telling you how it's described by the... What you're actually describing, if you go through all of this, is the creation of a police state. Yes, definitely. Now, that brings us to what the United Nations Commissioner on High Commissioner on Human Rights had to say about the Public Order Act. And what he said was it undermined or it broke the UK's obligations that they've signed up to under the Human Rights Act, the right to gather, right to protest. So the statement out of Geneva, when this bill was passed, and as we know, as you just stated, it was rushed through and signed by Charlie, and it appears it was rushed through and signed by Charlie in order to stop dissent. Talk about the mafia. Yeah. Talk about fascism. Yeah. I mean, the bill doesn't actually apply here in Scotland, but I'm sure they'll find a way around that. I am against all unionists. I am against them opening their gubs. However, I'll defend to the last bit of blood in my veins their right to say what they're going to say. Because at the end of the day,
free speech is more precious than anything you could imagine. If you went to live in North Korea, you don't have free speech. You don't need dare even think anything that's against the thing. But as David will tell you, thought speech is now becoming a thing.
There's now the crime of thought. Thinking about protest is now a crime. That was the bit that Rishi Sunak put into the bill. And that's the bit that allows them to stop protest before they actually start, even when they have permission for the protest. Yeah. And it is horrific. I want to see how many of these make it into court and actually get kicked too.
The thing is, though, I think effectively what they're doing is they're just trying to scare people into not doing anything.
They're trying to scare people into compliance, and there's nothing more mafioso than that.
Yeah.
And let's talk about this. The head of this crime circuit or
syndicate.
The head of the crime syndicate isn't actually Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
Sausage fingers, big ears.
Yeah.
Because he's the head of state.
Yeah.
He's the guy that signed this law.
He's a spoiled brat. You actually look at the way he actually talks to people in private and quiet. It's ridiculous. He is exactly that. He's a spoiled brat. And anything that he says, he sees that he doesn't like, he just, that's it, and it's, get away, right? And that's precisely what he's done to the people in England. Because remember, this Public Order Act 2023 does not include us in Scotland. Remember that.
Aye, at the moment they'll find somewhere in it.
Yes, but it's important that people get their head.
The next subject, and that's about talk. That's about a diminishing freedom of speech and diminishing the ability to express yourself as a person or a nation. When did you make it Alistair Jack and Fishy Pants drunk Lord Fuchs demanding that no UK civil service staff are appointed to or can work with Jamie Hepburn, the new Scottish Minister for Independence?
Well, I have to say, because it's a devolved government, there's so much that can be pushed through, and they are entitled to the services of the civil service, right? Yep. And that's a broad brushstroke order, if you like. So, as far as Fishy Pants Lord Fuchs is concerned, I'm not worried.
Fishy Pants didn't initiate this. This was initiated by the Secretary of State for Scotland, who is supposed to be in Scotland in the UK government to represent the people of Scotland and their will. And here he is actively campaigning to shut down Scottish voices on the international stage.
He effectively is the what can I say? He's there to bring us all into line. And as far as I'm concerned, spit in his eye. The
thing is, David, this isn't a new right enough, because last year he spent about 1.5 million in propaganda pumped out of the Scotland office. That's why Lord Offord's there.
Yeah.
People forget who Lord Offord is. He's the guy who ran a company called Akanshi. Akanshi is a rogue advertisement agency who make money to advertise in rogue states.
Yes. Right.
And the UK is, by every measure on the international stage, a rogue fucking state. It's a pariah organisation and a criminal cabal.
Yeah.
But to think that the guy who's supposed to represent us in the UK Parliament is effectively requesting that the chief civil servant in London tells the chief civil servant in Scotland that they've not to let civil servants work with a Scottish appointed minister.
So who's the senior person there in the civil service? Is a civil service leader in London above the civil service person in Scotland?
Yes, he appoints. The civil service chief in London. He puts forward a list of 3 civil servants to become the chief civil servant of the Scottish civil service, and that the First Minister gets to choose which one it is.
I object to that. As you can imagine. Chris says Union Jack isn't a traitor. He's not a traitor to his own cause, and his cause is not your cause, Chris. You know that, all right?
Anyway, Simon Chase, CDO, born and that's the Chief of Civil Service, born 27th of December 1978, is a British civil servant who is the current Cabinet Secretary and Head of the Home Civil Service since 9th of September 2020, succeeding Sir Mark Sedwell, who was chased out the job by Bojo and his regime.
Right. Okay.
So,
yeah, look, you know, we're going to get these little men. They are little men, right? Okay. In your head, don't give them any more power than they're entitled to. They're entitled to no power whatsoever. You as a citizen of Scotland, give them.
And I'm glad you said citizen there, because it's important to get that definition correct. Here in Scotland, because the people are sovereign, we are citizens.
Yeah.
In England, because the Crown is sovereign, the people are subjects.
Yeah.
In fact, I've seen a few good debates on it actually recently, but none of them in the mainstream media.
Yeah, do not give them, in your heads, don't give them any power, because they have no power, other than that you give them. Right? And I think we all need to be waking up and realising that. And if they then take physical action against you as a citizen of this country, then fine. They're going to have to deal with all the rest of us.
Aye. Phil makes a good point. That Scotland doesn't have its own civil service. We know that. I've spoken about it through the years, actually. I've been broadcasting that the civil service doesn't work for the Scottish Government, it works for the UK Government.
Yeah.
And it's directly under the control of the Scottish Secretary and Simon Case. Simple as that.
But they are human beings, and they are human beings that live in Scotland. And what they may do is, if they're given an order to do something that they disagree with, they'll do it, but they'll work to rule. They'll work to just exactly what they've got to do, and no more. Whereas,
Mark, that's a good point. If poverty pays the answer, you're asking the wrong question. Sometimes the comments can be quite good. But no, you're right, David. I mean, the civil service is supposed to be neutral and impartial and things like that. So how dare the Scottish Secretary ask them to act in an impartial way? But we know that the Treasury did it in the last referendum.
yes.
They didn't get an award for it.
But the thing is, though, in the Treasury unit that was asked to do this, where they actually had an awards ceremony after the referendum, these people embarked on that happily because they were part of Better Together. They wanted to be part of Better Together.
We see from the point of view of these civil servants in London, if we'd have left, who was going to pay their fucking wages?
Quite right.
Because let's face it, and I don't mean this to be wrong, I mean this to make the people of England up. They have nothing, they produce nothing.
Yeah.
And the one thing that they were good at, which was the service industries, they cut themselves off of their biggest market with Brexit. So the legal services are fucked internationally, the banking services diminished, the advertising industry's tits up, all the services that England produced are gone. Thanks, Alexis. All the things that England did well are gone.
Yeah.
They restricted their inability to sell the one thing that they did well.
Was that
international contracts and legalese. Help the rich hide their money.
Yeah.
And advertise crap.
And pomp and circumstance.
Oh, they do that very well. But they cut themselves off for the markets for these things.
Yeah.
Not jobs.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in the derogatory way. They were misled by their media. They were misled by their politicians. They were misled by their class system and those at the very pinnacle of it.
Yeah.
Like sausage fingers in his £2 billion hat.
That's right.
But we'll get to that a wee bit further on. Right, we're motoring through this. Right, let's move on to Starmer. The disastrous shown for Labour at the local.
Well, you left the last programme, David. You left the last programme saying if you got round about 500 extra councillors, that would be very, very bad news. What did he actually get? It was
524.
There you go. Not bad, eh?
No, the Greens and the Lib Dems took me.
Yeah, and we can actually see now that because of that, Starmer did really, really poorly, and also because of the effect on the Tories individually, they saw as being very, very bad. That means that we can say with pretty much no shadow of a doubt that there will be no election in October of this year, because Rishi Sunak wouldn't want to risk an election in October of this year. He needs more time to whittle away at Labour.
Aye, but what that result did do was it gave him hope. Now, we'll look at what Professor John Curtis said when he extrapolated that vote UK-wide as if it was a general election. He says it meant that the Labour Party would have about 36% of the vote, the Tories 29%, the Lib Dems about 20% of the vote, and the 15% to others, or the rest to others, right? And that includes, of course, the SNP here in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And what John said was, this isn't good for Labour. This doesn't show an overall majority here. And when the time between and the election, the time between now and when they could call an election, with the White Starmers rolling back and all the pledges and promises they made to people, I think that's why Labour didn't do as well as what they thought they were going to do. And although Labour are heralding this as a great, great a victory, it wasn't. It wasn't a great victory.
You could actually see it as a repeat of 2010. In actual fact, I heard the other day that Nick Clegg was putting his resignation into Facebook or whatever they're called this week, so that he can run as leader of the Lib Dems and get into being the Deputy Prime Minister again.
We don't forget about a long Parliament as if it's really tight. There's no guarantee that Labour and the Lib Dems or Labour and the SNP will hook up. But it could well be that the Lib Dems decide to go back into bed with the Tories. But the thing that's interesting about all these parties, the three mainstream parties in England is, two of them are run by Lords of the Realm.
That's right.
And Lords of the Realm are generally Tories. But it was a disaster for the Tories because they did lose over 1,000 seats they were expecting to lose. It was an absolute disaster for Labour because they didn't pick up as many of the seats that they were predicted to pick up. And this is where the stats are important. Labour went into that poll with a 17-point lead and exited that poll with a 7-point lead. That's something that Sunak will be looking at and saying, I could claw that back.
The effective defeat of the Tories was expected. And the people of England that were your traditional Tory voters, many of them will have voted something else just to sting the Tories. And tell them, hang on, David, tell them that, look, we're angry at you, right? And then when it comes to an election, it might well be that they'll go back and they'll vote Tory again.
I definitely do. But as I say, what was interesting about it was the Tory voters didn't swing to Labour. They swung to the Lib Dems. Or they swung to the Greens.
Did you see the latest, last week's Prime Minister's Questions, where Stephen Flynn stood up and asked about tuition fees?
Aye.
And talking about and there's Labour now not wanting to do away with tuition fees. So, you know.
But as we covered last week how many pledges that Starmer made these went back on. In fact, I could probably flick pages back and read them out again, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what did he?
Don't go back through the 10 points. That'd take too much
I'm
time.
not going to do the 10 points, no. But he scrapped his promise to tax the top 5%. He scrapped plans to nationalise utilities. He abandoned his pledge on freedom of movement.
Yeah.
He abandoned his pledge to scrap universal credit and the sanction regime. He's abandoned his pledge to abandon the two-child cap, and he's abandoned his pledge to renationalise the NHS, and he dropped his pledge to scrap tuition fees. There you go. It didn't take long to cover what a liar Starmer is, and that's probably why Labour didn't do in the as well at the election there, the local election there, is what they thought. Because let's face it, the working class man in the North East, where they did pick up a few of the old red wall seats, the working man in the North East is looking at this and going, but I was hoping my child could go to university now.
Yeah. And then Sunak replied to Stephen Flynn about that, precisely about that. It's well known that more people from children from deprived families go to university. Did they?
No, that was one of the points of order that was brought up. Mine, Sunak was caught lying 4 times in that Prime Minister's questions last week.
Yeah.
4 times. 4 points of order. 4 times he's going to have to go back and correct the record.
So,
in the case of amount of people getting higher education in England and Scotland, Marion Fellows stood up, raised the point of order, and hit them with the stats.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, we're now in a situation whereby the Tories are thinking, well, stuff it, we can say what we like, do what we like.
With impunity, of course, yes.
Yeah, get away with it. I mean, that's just...
But the interesting thing is, as we brought up in the comments, is that Starmer won't change the Public Order Act. He'll keep the new police powers.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it's less and less likely that Starmer is going to win number 10. I actually think the whole thing is going to swing back Sunak's way.
Well, as you know, it's a long time in politics, David. But what I will say is Starmer is preparing the UK for continuity governance.
Yeah.
And you and I have spoken about this on the show a good few times. You know, he is preparing them for continuity governance, right? Now, this one's a cracker, and there's point by point, so we'll go through it, right? And well, let's go back to the right page.
Yeah, let's do it a wee bit at a time, because you've got quite a lot to...
Right, anyway. On Saturday, we had Sausage Fingers Big Ears get a £2 billion.
No, 250 million pound.
No, that was the cost of putting the gig on. I'm talking about the price of the bonnet they put in his head.
Right, okay.
He had a £2 billion bonnet put in his napper.
Right.
He had a £500 million fucking orb put in his horn. God knows what the sceptre was worth. And watching, apparently, people were dressing him in a cathedral.
Yeah.
Well, talk about ancient archaic rites. I'm surprised they didn't anoint his feet.
Isn't it disgusting that people that are going through a difficult time, many of them at the moment, right? There was nothing else on TV.
No.
Unless you had movie channels and all the rest of it, right? There's bugger else on TV. And these people were having to watch this opulence when many of them wouldn't have had enough.
Well, why wouldn't they have electricity to watch the opulence unless they went to a local park?
Hang on. Many of them wouldn't have enough money to put a meal on the table that night.
That's why they wouldn't have enough to watch the telly, because there wouldn't have any electricity in their meters.
Right.
Anyway, what is the state of the UK at the weekend when Big Ears gets a £2 billion bonnet papped on his napper? Right. Hundreds of thousands of public sector workers on strike after 12 years of real-time pay cuts.
Yes.
I mean, here in Scotland, well, just the junior doctors say they're going to go on strike as well, because they reckon they've lost nearly 30% in the cuts over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And they want something like 28.6% just to get back to where they were 10 years ago.
Yeah, just while you're on that, I'll just give you a wee slight diversion. You know the meme that was put up about a can of beans?
Aye.
And how many cans of beans a junior doctor could afford back in the such and such a date and all the rest of that, right? And how many can be afforded now, right? I actually saw there was some tube on the fact-checking organisation that does Facebook's fact-checking. It said, no, that's not strictly true. And I just thought, how fucking dare you?
Oh, no, David, you know me, that's the sort of thing. I don't know, I wouldn't fact-check a fucker at all.
No, you know what I mean? It's like, how dare you? How dare somebody blooming have the audacity to fact-check such a thing?
Oh, but
Because,
you know,
but what they actually found out was it was a few fractions of a penny difference in what it was. So it wasn't exact, and that's what blooming got the fact checker. Well, that wee fact checker's a wee fanny. There you go. I've said it, and I've said it on Facebook. All right, so there you go. All right.
I won't say it again. All right. Anyway, let's move on to another interesting fact about the UK and the state in the UK today under the head of the mafia, Don Charles's administration. Housing out of reach of most in the market, whether it be buying or renting, and this particularly affects the young who can't leave home. You know what I mean?
A wee interesting fact that goes with that. A few weeks ago, there was Question Time in London. Many of you might remember it. I don't like watching the programme, but sometimes I have to watch it just to see what's being said. And I remember the audience said, you know, that houses getting built and all the rest of it, doesn't matter if they're for rent. And he said, I know of flats in London whereby they're worth so many millions that you couldn't afford to rent them. And that's the case in a lot of such situations. In London, you just can't afford you couldn't possibly afford the rent, right? So therefore, unless we've got social rent, unless we've got social housing, proper social housing, run by a council, for example, right, it doesn't work. The private housing side, the private rental market is just ridiculous.
And this takes us back all the way to Maggie.
Yeah.
And the selling off of the housing stock. And she actually, that was one of her mistakes, because it crippled the economy. It sort of put an end to social mobility, David. You and I have spoke about this before. I mean, although Maestey stayed in the places we were born and we all grew up in council homes and things like that, you know. If our family had an opportunity, say, I was in East End of Glasgow, an opportunity to come up in Glenrothes, because there was enough social housing, you could move to facilitate the need of industry in that area.
Well, my mother and father at the council house all their married life. They were in the East End of Glasgow, and my dad got a job in the Rolls Royce Hillington, and they moved to Pollock, so you could cycle there each day. You know, it was an easier bike ride. You know, and so then social housing made that effective. Had they bought their house, you didn't in those days, but let's say they had bought their house, then they'd have had to look for a house they could buy somewhere in that area.
And they didn't sell the land they were in. And it would have slowed the process down, and it would probably meant that move was unattainable, and that better job was unattainable. Yeah. That was one of the big mistakes that Thatcher made when she let people buy it. I don't know whether to deliver it or no, but when she allowed the council house stock to be sold off, social housing to be sold off to the people who were living in it, what she did was she shackled those people's social mobility.
Yes.
Because they were tied to that bloody property.
No, but what they effectively did was that gave people the golden handcuffs, because they were allowing people to sell the house that they were living in.
Aye.
Buy the house they were living in from the council and thereby sell it for a much greater amount.
Well, it's been a wee while before that actually happened. I know a guy that used to end who won £40,000 on the lottery, so he spent a couple of grand buying his council house.
Yeah.
And in the end, they gave him a couple of £100 because they were knocking the building down.
Yeah.
So he actually lost it.
Yeah.
So, but social mobility, social housing, and things like good education, a national health service, good public services. These are all important for an economy.
Yeah.
And this is where the Tories get it backwards.
Yeah.
Invest in these things, you got a healthier, happier, more productive, and more intelligent population, and that makes you a winner in the world stage.
Mm.
And we see that with the Nordic countries.
Mm.
And Scotland, well, we are one of the Nordic countries.
Yes.
Although we're part of this bloody island, we're actually a Celtic stroke Nordic people. And our values are more aligned with our Nordic cousins.
Just as another wee take you away in a tangent, the new program being launched on Netflix, if you've got Netflix, called The Celts. It's a follow-up documentary covering the beginning of the Celtic nations coming across the Alps, and I do recommend that you watch it. It's very, very, very interesting.
Well, unless it's on YouTube, I'm not likely to watch it. Right, anyway, let's move on, because we're talking about the state of the UK and time is getting on. We're on the 40 minutes, and we've still got a wee way to go. 2,986,203 emergency food parcels handed out last year. Mind, that's emergency food parcels. That's no people who regularly rely on food banks.
Mm-hmm.
You think, well, that's only a kick in the arse of 3 million people needing emergency help to eat.
Yeah.
And the seventh largest economy on the planet.
But for me, the statistic that stands out on all of that is there are more food banks than branches of McDonald's burger bars in the UK, and that's unthinkable. That's ridiculous.
It is, which brings us on to the next bit, the bit that makes me cry when I go to my bed at night, and I mean this sincerely. More than 14 million people in the UK live in what they call abject poverty.
Yeah.
14 million out of a population of 65 million.
That statistic, the poverty, what is poverty? If you Google it, you'll see there are several different descriptions of what denotes poverty.
Well, David, I'm quite well off, and I live in poverty because I spend more than 10% of my income on energy. That is
one example, right? Another example was whether a child from a family living in poverty could afford a telephone or could afford an Xbox, a games machine, games console, right? And to be honest with you, it's only a slight movement of the amount of money in a parent's pocket that can actually put the child into thinking that they're living in poverty, where the child starts to make excuses as to why they cannot go with their pals to the pictures or whatever, or because their mommy's doing something with them or whatever, right? And that is a real shame, is people living in poverty.
You take that statistic, almost 3 million emergency food parcels handed out to families, and 14 million out of 65 million, and the seventh biggest economy on the planet living in poverty.
Yeah.
That's horrendous.
One of the saddest movies I ever saw.
England and Wales, David, let me finish that. In England and Wales, 1 in 4 children go to bed every night through an evening meal. In Scotland, 1 in 5 children. We're doing marginally better because of devolution.
Yeah.
And things like the child payment. But in England, 1 in 4 children go to bed hungry every night, and in Scotland, 1 in 5. This is supposed to be, it used to be the 6th biggest, but India's overtaken us, so we're now the 7th biggest economy on the planet. This is a big planet. Where is that money? Why aren't the people feeling the benefit of it? This is the state of the UK as we anoint a new king. Yeah. The King Dawn of the corrupt state.
Anyway, as I was going to say, one of the saddest movies I ever saw was an Italian movie. It was an Italian movie about a man and his little boy that would get sent to Auschwitz, right? And they were in the prison camp, and the man wanted to keep his little boy with him, so he hid the little boy, right, inside the place where they lived, and he tried the little boy. It was a game. The little boy had to hide. And all the rest of it, right? And it was this thing about blooming trying to tell the child little porkies to make life easier. And it's like, to be honest with you, we're there now with kids that are going to bed hungry, and the parents trying to say, "Oh, I'll get something tomorrow morning," or making stuff up to try and like lessen the blow. I think it's dreadful. It really is, honestly.
Parents cook food so their children get.
That's right.
Parents eating the leftovers, if any, after children's plates because their children are hungry.
Exactly right. How can we do this to people? How on earth can we do this to people?
It is one quite too many too. It's horrific. Right, let's get to the next bullet point of the state of Charlie's UK. Shall we? Yeah. Electricity prices up by 66.7% and gas prices up by 129.4% from beginning of 2022 till March 2023. This is piling pressure on these people who are already poor. Well, this prat at the head of the UK HM government, remember His Majesty's government, is being ferried back and forth in sand-filled potholes on the Mall because there's so little being spent on infrastructure that they had to fill the Mall potholes with sand, wet sand, so that the Royal Arse didn't get a bump.
I actually heard somebody on GB News this morning saying, "Oh no, that was filled in by the security services after they checked them for bombs and all that."
A lot of pish. Hey, you can see all the. I've seen the photographs with all the yellow potholes with wet sand so that his Royal Bahookie didn't get spanked in his archaic fucking gold coach.
Yes.
Of which he required 2. One to get him there and one to get him fucking back again. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, people are living in fuel poverty, food poverty. Let's face it, food price inflation is at 19%. But as you and I know, depending on how much money you've got, that's on the individual.
Yeah. I can assure you that people with very little money, right, depending on their choices, they will have an inflation rate, a personal inflation rate, many times that.
Oh, I
yeah. And it's about wallopers like me that have got a bit coming in that we can afford maybe choices, right? Which I feel guilty about. I do feel guilty about it.
We all do, David.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Why do I feel guilty about still earning a living? My wife.
We're raising money through this program for food banks.
Yeah.
Sarah and I have been supporting the Indie 2 Cafe. She's just become an official member, actually. Apparently, they've anointed her after Saturday because she's a good salesperson. She really does manage to get the money out of people for charity.
Yeah. I'll attest to that. I'll attest to that.
On the Indie 2 Cafe work hard, and at every single penny.
Yeah.
Outside costs, because the one thing a charity has to do is cover costs. You know, otherwise you're wasting your time. It becomes a drag in yourself until you're doing there at the same level as the people you're trying to help. You're not lifting them up. You're bringing yourself down. Which the MD2 Cafe have done.
Yeah.
But the reason why we do these things is because we recognise the suffering round about us. You know. And you know, David, you and I have known each other a long time. And as we finish this off and move on to happier subjects, you know, it's one of the things that keeps you and I awake at night. You know, it really does keep us awake at night. How many times we sat late in the evening talking about this stuff?
Yeah, I know it's easy to say, oh, I was thinking about the poor and all the rest of it. No, we talk about
we're thinking of our fellow fucking citizens.
Yeah.
We're not calling them poor. We're calling them victims.
Yeah.
Victims of a corrupt state.
Yeah.
This idea that we are saying these people are poor, they're not poor. They have bad governance and a government that doesn't give a fuck about them.
Yeah, that's right.
But these are our family, our friends, our fellow citizens.
Yeah.
It's why we need independence. Sorry, I got a wee bit angry there.
Yeah.
You know me, David, I'm prone to it.
I don't apologise for that. It's like passion about something that is so ridiculously, so dirty, is just to be expected. It's you know, you're a human being, right?
Anyway, at the end of it, as you and I have spoke about, as the Brexit checks come in at the end of this year, we are going to see bigger shortages in the supermarkets. We're going to see a food price inflation fly. This is just the start yet. At this point in time, 19% is the average food price inflation across the board. Inflation, which was supposed to be cut to 5% right now, is running at 10.4%. As predicted by me, I said that food price inflation was going to keep inflation up there. Well, it's 2.4% higher than I predicted. And I was predicting that by now, the middle of this year, we're in month 5, that inflation would be at 5%. And they were setting public sector wages based on it.
You know, but yeah, again, it's like dropping inflation to 5% is still inflation. The target by the set by previous governments for the Bank of England is 2%. If it goes above 2%, they have to write a letter to the Prime Minister explaining what they're going to do about it.
But it shows you how poorly informed the people of England and Wales are. They think inflation dropped to 5% is a good thing. It's no! It just means that for the point we're at right now, prices will only rise by 5% this year. They're still going up, but it's by 5%. Your wages are not going up by 5%.
And the Bank of England, because they see everything is a nail, such as inflation, that means that they've got to use the hammer. And the hammer is putting up interest rates. You know, but the interest rates affect everything. If you've got a wee bit of plastic, a credit card, right, and you're forced to use that to get food for your family, that's going up as well, right? And you know, if you're living in a house where you've got a mortgage and it's just a tracker mortgage, my goodness me, the amount that your mortgage has gone up over the last year is phenomenal. And some people must be thinking, you know, if it goes up again, that's it, we're done. What a sad situation to be in.
Aye, we're nearly at the point of putting their keys to the bank's door again, saying, fuck you, take it.
Yeah.
I
saw this, my goodness me, I saw this back in the 80s. I actually knew a couple that I actually saw them posting their
house keys through the bank door. I remember myself.
And that was in Darlington.
Interest
right?
Rates were running about 18%, were they not?
Right, yeah. It was, I mean, at the time I just looked at it and I thought, well, you know, everybody's in the same boat, so what are they going to do to me? But in actual fact, they did take action against people, and that was it, you know.
Well, anyway, we're going to go a wee bit light on ending this one, David. Right? Yeah. We're going to get a wee bit more upbeat.
Let's try.
It was such an uplifting event, but I want to mention something here that Nathan just said. 170 people on YouTube watching live. I've got 236 on my screen. So the rest of the 66 are on Facebook. But as I say, the interesting thing is the watch back is more on Facebook than what it is on YouTube. And we would like to get a parity and get out to more people, obviously, folks. So please help us if you like what we do. Now let's go back to Saturday and get a wee bit more upbeat, shall we? I know you couldn't do the march anywhere, David. You and I used to enjoy the march.
Plus, I managed to wait until you actually got there.
Aye, you did.
Where I said, look, guys, I've got to go. I'm in agony. You know.
Aye, because we don't get to see each other in person that often, David, that's for sure. You know, but we do communicate very, very regularly, and we talk these things through all the time. But and a few times I've fucked us out live when we're just talking privately and things like that, you know. But Saturday was such an uplifting day.
Yeah.
But especially for me on the march to see so many people that we started campaigning way back in 2012. But more importantly, to see so many new faces and so many young faces. And the other thing with Saturday was the fun was back. The unity was back. Within the march itself, I'm not talking widerly, but in the march itself. And it was really special to get to meet so many members of the audience as well, who we hadn't met before.
Yeah.
You know, and the camaraderie was there again, and we have to build on that. But we also have to include the young.
David, I need to stop you there. Phil's put up something that is factually wrong, and it's something that affects what we do, right?
Right.
Alistair, we still don't. It's Phil. Sorry, it's Phil McCracken. He's talking about we have a bank account. The bank account still isn't in place, right? So if you do a super chat, yes, YouTube take 30% of the super chats. Right?
How long is this going to sort of, David? It shouldn't be that much longer, surely.
You know something there? I phoned them last week and they said, "Oh, it should be sorted out by the beginning of this." And that. It still isn't. I'm still.
Well, I guess I better come out and see you. We're going to see them in person, get this sorted out.
That's probably the best idea, right? Okay, carry on. Sorry. You were talking about unity.
We need to bring the fun back, David.
Yeah.
I mean, campaigning in 2012, 2013 was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
We were a decade and a bit younger and things like that. We could achieve more.
Yeah, but, you know, I saw the Yes campaign as shooting itself in the foot every day of the week.
Aye, but that's since the referendum.
Yeah.
We're talking about getting back to where we were before. I mean, we had such great fun in the movement. The creatives in the movement were fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, we had John Plott with Dance for Freedom.
Yeah.
We had all the fun we all under one banner. We had Sci TV Tam and Sci TV, Ninja Penguin.
Yeah.
We had all these creatives putting out great stuff.
Yeah.
Now, later this year, Yes to Indie are going for a world record attempt at the slosh. Where else would you do that except in Scotland? And I want everybody to get involved. But what I really like is guys like John Plott and that to get back involved and organise a festival for the young. We need to get younger voters. 70-odd% of them, or 68% of the last poll says they want indie. We need to get them involved in the movement. So we need people and our creatives to put something together.
I've got one. We actually break into the alert system. You know, we actually set off a thing on your phones, right? And it actually plays a tune that goes with the slosh. And we all, wherever we are, we just start doing the slosh. Yeah.
David, the footage out of me trying this out there and me trying this slosh. I'll need a bit of learning. It's funny how women just know how to do this stuff instinctively, and us guys look with children we try.
Yeah. I saw that clip the other week that was on TikTok, and it was the bit where Jack and Victor get everybody up to do the slosh. Brilliant, absolutely superb. You know. Anyway.
Listen, but what we do is, Chris, so they can get a free band. What we need is the creatives in the organisation and in the movement to get back together.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd like to see Jerry telling his management team, get the fuck, I'm going to do this festival. You know, But you and I have no idea how to put together a music festival or how to go get
Oh, I do, but anyway, that's beside the point.
Oh, you did. Why did you?
Hey,
You want to be a touring musician. Hey, Spanner, how come you didn't think of us?
What? What are you on about?
We were talking at the beginning of the programme. First time I met you was in the 80s. You were a touring band. Oh, wow. You do know how to do this. Get a sorted out, you mug. Let's get the kids involved.
Oh, dear.
What a great inspirations on Saturday for
Hello, is that Edward and Shirley Trucking? We need 40 of your biggest articulated lorries to carry the gear for That's the hardest thing, is moving the gear of the people.
It's not me. I'm an expert in logistics. I'll sort that out. Wow.
Oh, dear.
But no, honestly, we need to bring the fun back and get the kids active. And it was great to see so many of them at the weekend there on Saturday. It really was. Recently, on the marches when they were smaller, it was like going back to the start again. It was all the same faces.
Yeah.
But Saturday, oh wow. There was young. There was.
It was. I did notice that
there. You know.
No, I did notice that myself. Was the number of young people, right? However, last night I went for there's a place.
Down the road, this is we're ending a happy
note. No, a place called Perfect Catch up in Hargate, right? And I went up there for a haggis supper, right? And the laddie said to me, he says, "Hey, David, he knows me. He says, were you at that Independence March on Saturday?" I said, "Aye, yeah, aye." So we got chatting about it. And there was a wee lass that was serving at the time. She says, "Oh, no, I'm in the cadets." And I went to their blooming coronation thing. I went, "Oh, yeah, that's right. You would be, wouldn't you? You'd be dragged into that." And she says, "Oh, no." She says, I wanted to go. And she said, "Plus the fact you were talking about independence, I don't want independence." She was like 17, whatever, right? Okay. And eventually she started coming away with like statistics that she knew, right? Yeah. That she'd been fed.
Aye.
Her mum and dad are indie supporters. She told me that, right? But what she was saying was, she said, no, the majority of people my age don't want independence. And what I did was I quoted her, or the polar polls figures, right? And I said, so there you go, that's that one chucked at the door. What you got next, And eventually I said, look, I'll leave you to it. Your mum and dad will sort you out. They'll get you.
They'll put you right.
Yeah, you put you right. So anyway, but we have to be aware. Yes, the majority of kids in Scotland do want independence. Not all. And what we have to do is we're going to make sure that the ones that are not supporting independence are not filled with nonsense.
No, that's very important. Well, that is a big problem, tricky propaganda. But what we really do need to do, David, is we round this up, is get the fun back.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some people who campaigned with different things all during the years. I mean, seeing Gwen Sinclair and Saturday was. We don't see each other that often. And since the pandemic, we haven't seen each other at all. We campaigned with CND for independence, all sorts of things, And I was able to put a smile on her face. And she was able to put a smile on my face. And the same goes for everybody else we've seen,
Yeah. I mean, as the crowd was coming in, I was going, come on, smile. Independence is just around the corner. And they all smiled.
Aye, it's that March. I called them all a bunch of face buggers and all smile. But things did pick up in the way around.
Yeah. Oh, David, you've frozen up.
Clapping and things like that. We're on Woodlands Road, and this boy that owns a shop there, an Asian shop. Him and his wee lass and his wife suit, waving the salt tires and independence and all that. People hanging out their windies in the tenements, giving it yes. It was really, really uplifting. But we really need to bring the fun back. Put all this division aside and remember how it used to be.
Forgive me for asking this, and it's maybe something that I was made aware of, but didn't know if it happened. Was Freedom Square not supposed to be taken over by a coronation event by the Orange Order.
No, it was about 30 Mankeys mob at the Maze.
Is that what it was?
Things like that.
Right, got you. Because there was a guy that came through there.
What was disappointing, David, was that on Sunday the Glasgow City Council splurged a few quid on having a military parade.
Yeah.
And listen, Glasgow Council is an SNP council. Or as far as I know, it's still an SNP council. And in the middle of the cost of, and people think I don't criticise the SNP enough. I'm going to criticise them now.
Yeah.
In the middle of the cost of living crisis, when public services, especially those being provided by the councils, are under such stress, we don't spend 100,000 quid in the military parade for a coronation.
I know.
Yes, at Glasgow Council.
Hang on a second now.
I don't want to end this one down there because Saturday lifted my spirits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Local election results in England last week and Saturday lifted my spirits.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got a bit of drive to try and get us going again to win this up and coming election, because if the SNP go backwards, no disrespect to other political parties, but if the SNP go backwards, the game's a pokey, David. You and I are going to get in that camper van and go and do that tour.
Yeah. If that happens, if the SNP go back the way, then unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many of you support yes for independence, it's just not going to happen because nobody's going to get the ballot boxes out of the cupboards.
That's because we recognise, or we should by now recognise, that the Westminster government does not recognise coalitions. And Westminster, we have an Alpha and SNP sort of loose coalition representing the majority of Scotland. They only recognise the SNP.
Yeah, that's right.
And in the Scottish Parliament, we have a Green SNP majority. We have a mandate for an independence referendum. They don't recognise it because it's no SNP. We're not saying this because we're some sort of acolytes for the SNP. We're saying this because we realise political reality. And the political reality is we're up against a corrupt state which only recognises one party independence in Scotland. Simple as that.
Yeah. And also an international community that really only see through the haze the SNP, right? So it's going to be important for them to see the SNP being the active vote, as it were. And then, more importantly, we're going to require recognise it.
But that's also the name of the party that they produced, and that is the Scottish Nationalist Party.
Yeah.
And because it's the Scottish Nationalist Party, it is seen as the party of the Scottish nation.
Yeah.
And it represents the will of the Scottish people. Whether we like it or no, folks, because I like a diverse democracy. That's just the facts under this corrupt.
Well, I've got to say to you, seriously, I know you're asking for a super independence party is required. No, seriously, no. That's not going to work for you. I know you would like that. I know you would like that, but looking at it,
I would like it, David. You would like it.
No, but it's just not going to happen.
Buggers doing that road don't recognise it, and that's the reality.
And internationally.
No, I'm right, internationally as well. But Saturday was an uplifting event.
Yes.
Especially seeing all our friends, for me especially, a lot of our friends are in the Alpha Party.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have different views on the way forward doesn't change the fact that they're our friends.
We're pals from our pals. Simple as that. Yeah.
And as I say, I had such a great day on Saturday, and it was great to have my brother with me. Hugh hasn't done a lot of marches, though he's been an independent supporter for as long as I have. And to have him as the cameraman, and as I say, I need to find that video. I don't know where the hell it went. If anybody's got that, but in fact, Scottish Independence 2023. Have you got that video? If you have, can you put it back in my timeline, please? Somebody took it in. It wasn't we that took it in. It just disappeared from the timeline.
Possibly.
Right,
possibly Nick Clegg, just before putting in his resignation to Facebook or whatever they're called this week, said, "Can you just delete that lot?" Yeah. There you go.
Anyway, guys, wherever we are, See, feeling a bit upbeat after the weekend, seen so many old friends have campaigned away for so
It was fun. It was good fun. I had a great time.
new friends like Aki's mad, you know, David. It was a pleasure to meet you. Seeing young David and Dylan was wonderful, and seeing Chris was wonderful. Professor Mark McNaught, he wants to. We'll get Mark back on because he said he's wanting to come back on, and he's an interesting guy. A really interesting guy. And the work that the SSRG are doing looking into the Constitution as codified under Scots law is fascinating work.
Yes.
I mean, as I said to Mark and Saturday again, as I say, I don't see what you and Sal are doing as the way to get us to independence, but what I do see what you're doing is it's historically important work which could help.
Yes.
But as everybody agrees, there have to be some sort of ratification by the people, and that means a plebiscite.
And also, we will defend their right to make such actions.
Yeah, you're right, we will.
Yeah, so, you know.
You and I mean, sometimes we come across as a wee bit abrasive and things like that, but you and I are Democrats to our toes.
Yes. You know, and Sarah, I mean, I like Sarah Sawyer, I really, really do, right? And what she does is marvellous. And if she gets somewhere, that's bloody wonderful.
Aye, especially if we can find that wee codified part in our constitution that makes these things easier for us.
That's right. Yeah.
And I mean easier because it's always going to have to be ratified by the people.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to have to be a plebiscite of some sort to ratify the will of the people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the work that these people are doing is invaluable. And although we criticise it every now and again because some people pick it up wrong and think it's the road to Nirvana, there's only one road to Nirvana. That's a plebiscite. That's a ratification of the will of the people.
Where everybody goes, yes, that's it. End of. You know.
Right. Anyway, David, it's been a good show. I hope people have enjoyed themselves. I hope they found it entertaining. I hope they found it informative.
As usual, if you liked us, we are the Two Davies. Sorry, that was the Two Davies. If you didn't like us, we are the Rishi Sunak Appreciation Society.
Whoever always buckets says Davy for First Minister. What one? Me and him.
I don't want it.
He'd be a better First Minister than me. I'm too gobby.
Make him the First Minister.
Hey, he'd be a better First Minister than me. I'm too gobby. Actually, to be honest with you folks, I'm the more diplomatic of the pair is.
Correct. I admit that, yes, I do, honestly.
Back in the day, I was known as one of the most sensible debaters. David was a wee bit harsh.
Yeah. Bring them in the back and shoot them. That's it. That's the way, you know. Anyway, right.
Anyway, David, we're well over our time. I've enjoyed this afternoon. I hope the people watching have enjoyed this afternoon. Now, I'll do the roundup. Okay, if you're on YouTube, which the majority of you are, smash the like button, folks. It helps. Subscribe. That helps. Gives us more toys to play with on YouTube. And of course, thanks everyone for your donations to food banks today. As I say, we're trying to get the bank account sorted out. Now, if you are on Facebook and you intend to share this, and the reason why the viewing figures last week were the last show was only a cut 1,300 or 400 was because it took me 10 o'clock at night to remember to make the video public. So, but this time, folks, I'll make the video public right away. But give me a couple of minutes when we end the show. So that just leaves one thing left to say, David.
Bye, Davey.
Bye, Davey.
Bye, guys.